So, as I said this time last week, I'm sorry we can't, enable you to feedback from your discussions to the whole group, because there's a rather large group and it would take too long. So I'm going to say a few things about how to face the future without this naive hope that someone else will sort things out. So one thing it means is we have to sort things out. We can't leave it to somebody else. We have to take responsibility. And of course, it's not just for ourselves. It's for future generations. It's for our children, their children, their children, and so on. And it's for everyone on this planet that we can help. So we have to do something. That's why we're here. That's why we're here in this meeting. And that's why we're here alive on this planet at this time. Because we have a responsibility in this situation. And all our life, up till now, we have been learning things, we have been developing ourselves, we have been finding our way. It's been difficult for most of us. Sometimes we get lost. We don't know what to do. We despair. And then we find something and we feel better. But really, our whole life has been preparing us for this time. Because this time is crucial. This time is crucial for the future. If we get things wrong at this time, maybe there's no future at all for the life on this planet. But, or maybe there'll be some room for cockroaches. The main point is we have to do what we can. And going back to His Holiness Dalai Lama, he's often talked about disarmament in the past, and it seems probably for many years he has been aware that these weapons that the humans keep creating, keep producing to kill each other, it has to stop. It's really such a dreadful thing that we run our economies on producing the means to kill each other. And what does he say? He says outer disarmament begins with inner disarmament. And this is also the lesson of Kalachakra, that transforming the inner cycles of time and the outer cycles of time begins with the individual practitioner. And that is where we must begin. The outer collapse, all the things I spoke of in the first part of the class about war, agricultural breakdown, economic collapse, political collapse, ecological collapse, all of that begins with inner collapse. We just look back at the 20th century, we don't have to look back further. And we can see that humans in general have been in a gradual state of collapse. We've lost our way in general, collectively. Fortunately, there are still some traditions, some methods suitable for transformation. But in general, humans have lost their way. Let's start with ourselves. In order to face all these challenges that I discussed earlier, we need what we call inner resilience. Resilience means inner strength, real strength, not just false strength, genuine strength that is emotional, spiritual, and of course, it requires well-being and physical health too. We need to look after ourselves at every level. Inner resilience isn't something that you can put on top of yourself. When your mind is disturbed, you cannot take a tablet to give you inner resilience. You can't even go on a course and everything will be fixed. You have to work inside yourself. You have to do the inner work. And in general, it's not easy, but it's the only way. And it has to start from the ground and build up. In other words, we can't do it from the top down. We have to come from the bottom up. And what is the ground? The ground is the reality of our being. And mostly we don't even know what that is. But that is something we have to discover for ourselves. We can take teachings, we can study, we can read, we can do all these kind of things to learn about the nature of reality, the nature of our own reality. But actually, once we've studied those things to some extent, we have to go on the inner journey ourselves. And we have to find within ourselves what I'm calling the ground of our being, what we truly are. When we discover that, we will have a basis for inner resilience. We can nurture this with compassion for others, love for others, generosity towards others, patience, not to get angry with others, all these kind of things. These will nurture us, nourish us. But the purpose of those, personally, is to bring us to the ground of our being. The structure within which we do this, personally, is ethical. We have to adopt an ethics of not harming others personally, and where possible, benefiting others. But the main thing is not to harm. Not to harm others, and of course not to harm ourselves. We have to know what will harm us and avoid it. We have to be very tender with ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to be our own doctor and be our own therapist. And we can do this. We have to be aware of the cycles within ourselves, the cycles of time, how we go up and down, what moves us, what changes us. We have to become very familiar with our own inner cycles. But we also have to recognize the power that we have as an individual. We have agency. We can affect those around us. We can affect our family, our community, our workplace, our culture. We don't have to make a big noise about it. We can do this very quietly. The collapse comes from greed, really. That's why the climate crisis is happening. That's why all the other things I discussed in the first part, like the danger of war, economic collapse. The whole driver of our capitalist system is personal greed, or greed of groups, greed of one nation against another. So we have to begin with ourselves. We have to give up greed. Greed means trying to take more than you need, feeling that you're not satisfied unless you have a lot of everything, or even a particular thing, like food. If you're greedier with your food, you make yourself ill, or you get fat. You don't need it. We need to learn what we really need and live more simply. Capitalism has its own momentum as a system, economic system, but actually it's not independent of the people. If the people change, it will have to change also the economic structure. What we really need is a society where economic success is not measured by growth. We need a society where economic success is measured by well-being. Well-being of people, well-being of other species, well-being of the environment. When we measure success of the economy in those terms, everything will change. But we can do that ourselves, in our own life, in our own sphere, in our own situation. That's where it begins. There's an addiction to growth, and we have it ourselves. Like I said last week, to find the inner barbarian, find the inner growth addict. Is there a part of you that wants more and more of anything, whatever it is you like? Or can you be satisfied to just have what you need? Think of yourself when you go to the shops. This is the situation in which you can really check yourself. You can find out. Are you buying more things than you actually need? And then think of the impact of that on the world, if everybody's doing that. This greed is a form of selfishness. It comes when people don't consider the other, where they don't consider everybody, where they don't consider the needs of the world, where they only consider their own need or the need of their own group or their own family or their own small community or whatever. So our main inner work is to replace selfishness with universal responsibility. To, just as we did in the meditation at the beginning, to expand the horizon of our compassion to embrace the whole world and to think of the needs of the world more important than my own needs. And in terms of what kind of communities we live in, or work with, or engage with, we should help to create peaceful cultures in whatever groups we participate in. And most of us belong to more than one group. We have different communities. And those cultures need to be ecologically harmonious. That's something we need to learn about. What does that mean to be ecologically harmonious? That way we can participate in the process, which I'm going to talk about more next time, of what I'm calling deep adaptation. Deep adaptation is about the way that oneself and society as a whole adapts to the crisis that we are in. It doesn't deny that the crisis exists, but it works with the crisis to bring about an adaptation which is for the better, for the resilience of all. And that's what we'll be talking about next time. But now we've got an opportunity for 10 minutes of questions. or contributions from you. So if you would like to say something, if you want to share something with the group, or you want to ask a question, just put your hand up in the air. And if I see your hand up, I'll say your name, and then you can unmute yourself, or Nitzan can unmute you, and then you can speak. Yeah. So would somebody like to share something at this point? Maybe a question? Yeah, Linda. Yeah.
Unmute. Hi, everybody. You know, when you were speaking about greed and selfishness, it just hit me that I think that a lot of greed and selfishness is based in fear of maybe, you know, one, not having enough, the obvious, but fear of other people. They're going to take it all. They don't understand my needs. And so I think to overcome greed and selfishness, we've got to look at our own fears.
Yeah.
Basis, maybe.
Thank you very much.
And get that connection. When we see other people with fear in them, try and just recognize it and break it down, you know. It's very difficult.
But also, again, on the principle of starting within ourselves to try and understand our own fear. So when Claire Farrell said, face your own mortality, probably our biggest fear is our fear of dying. And maybe we stock up with so much because we think it's going to help us to survive longer. But of course, we have other fears. Like right now, most of us have got some fear of coronavirus. And, you know, it's not that fear isn't valid, but when it leads to selfish greed and ignoring or even going against the benefit or needs of others, then it's very negative. Yeah. Okay.
And fear can start and point to change something.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, thank you. Tal, now you'd like to speak?
Speaking of the coronavirus, one would think that after such a crisis, well, I had hope that things would change because people saw that you can actually live with less. But some of my friends really panicked. I'm not saying it cynically. The fact that they could not go and buy a lot of stuff really put them into deep depression. The fact that they could not sit in cafes, you know, facing your own fears is very, very difficult. And after you talk at the beginning, I must admit I was a bit depressed, and you know, it shook me because, and after seeing the video also, wow. And then I said to myself, okay, we are so small, but we are not nothing because we have influence. So, you know, we should really practice and try and, you know, send good vibes, you know, and influence whoever we can. What else can we do? And set an example.
Yeah. Thank you, Tal. This is really good. And this depends on the inner development. The inner work we do will enable us to have stronger or influence. Now, I've had a message that Daria wants to ask a question. Is it Daria? Yeah, Daria.
Yes, Andy, thank you so much for giving me the possibility to ask. I just wanted to ask how I might help better in this situation, because when you talk the previous lesson about this barbarian karma, I realized that this is the psychiatry system in Russia I actually work in. So we work now, like 2 weeks we work, then 2 weeks of rest we have, and so I have 2 weeks of work. And when I came there, I realized that I just can't stay. So I have to live there in the clinic, this governmental one. I realized that I just don't have enough resource, inner resource to stay. And my temperature got higher. Okay. So they had to send me away and so on. But I guess, so I know from psychological point of view that there's something that is ruining my boundaries, I'd say. But from the Buddhist point of view, how can I stay stronger? That's what we're talking about. How can I develop my inner strength for this in these circumstances, not to be ruining myself, because I feel like I'm ruining myself.
Understand. Okay, so this is my answer, and it's a really important question, and you are not alone with this problem. This is the world is asking more from us than we are able to give just now, in general, because the world has a great need. But we also have to be honest with ourselves about our limitation, and that is what you found, that you could be honest with yourself and say, I can't help in this situation. And then what you understood is that therefore you need to do more inner development, and this takes some time. But these practices, like the meditation we did earlier on compassion, if you would spend 20 minutes every morning doing meditation like that, this will give you incredible inner strength. I'm not saying you will be able to manage every situation, but gradually, if you can do something like that each day, gradually you will become stronger. Inner resilience comes from this kind of inner work. And as I said, we're transforming our selfishness into universal responsibility. What that means is universal love, universal compassion. And that way our mind actually changes. And then when the mind becomes universal responsibility, then there's no problem. But the journey to become that is a gradual journey. You can't suddenly come quickly like that. So yeah, it's good that you asked that question, and it's important to be realistic. What can I do? What can't I do? And if you can't manage something, then you can say, I'm sorry, I can't help here. And then you can walk away. You have to do that sometimes.
Thank you so much.
So
was
one
really
other question
inspirational.
maybe? Who else wants to ask something? Lenny. Yeah, where's Lenny? Yeah. Okay. Would you like to ask, Lenny? Yeah.
Yes. Hello. I'm in Mexico, so hi, everybody.
Okay.
I was just wondering, I was really moved by the meditation we did last time on these lines that go across us and meet in the center of the world. That was really powerful. Yes. And it actually motivated me to connect with this group, because somehow I feel that our individual efforts have to be added to whatever everybody else is doing. So is there anything to be said about that through Kalachakra, Andy? Is there something happening, or is it just, my wishful thinking, my magical thinking, and then I must, go back and work with myself and that's it? No.
Kalachakra is, as you may have heard, it's a tantric system, and it's unusual among the tantras in that it's a social tantra. In other words, it deals with questions about society and the world and the environment. And so, yes, very much, it actually has the function of overcoming divisions in the world, and also overcoming the unhealthy relationship with the environment, because it deals with the elements which are within the individual and within the environment. And when they're in disharmony in the individual, we become sick. And when they're in disharmony in the environment, then we have disasters like fires and floods and hurricanes and so forth. So the system of Kalachakra is designed to harmonize and balance and, bring us towards more ecological balance. And actually, on the fourth session of this course, we're going to do quite a lot of meditation, and you're going to be able to learn some meditations during that session, which is in 2 weeks today, which will help with this. I also think that probably the meditation we did at the beginning today, and also, as you mentioned, the meditation I led last time with the invisible line which meets at the center of the earth, all of these will help to ground us and balance us and give us a healthier perspective on how we relate to each other socially. And this can help us to have a positive effect on our community and actually on society as a whole. And so, yeah, we can do something. Does that help?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Now, I've looked at the time, and unfortunately we came to the end of this section, and we're going to actually just have 5 minutes more when Shan is going to lead us in a final meditation. So thank you for your questions. Thank you for sharing. That was really, really useful. And I hope everybody's feeling more positive. As Tal said, I deliberately took you into very dark places in the first part. And this is my little trick, really, so that then when you come into the brighter places, you feel a lot better. But the whole course is like that. During the later sessions, it becomes more positive. So don't think, oh, I can't go to that again because it makes me depressed. It's going to get better. Okay.
So we're just going to meditate for a very short while. So just quickly move into a meditation posture and focus inwards. And I'm going to lead you through a few thoughts from the Dalai Lama as inspiration. He says that love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. World peace must come from inner peace. Peace isn't simply an absence of violence. Peace is a manifestation of human compassion. If you live your life with a genuine concern for others, you will not only feel better about yourself, but you will in time become more confident. And self-confidence, in this sense, helps us develop determination, willpower, and optimism. Optimism is not being blind to the reality. It means being motivated to seek a solution. It's also to look at if there is any benefit in terms of a positive outcome for yourself or others. So with that thought of developing the inner self-confidence in order to develop willpower, determination, optimism, and a genuine concern for others. Dedicate tonight's energy Rejoice that you spent this evening thinking about difficult issues in order to be motivated in this way. And then to, in whatever way we can, move in this direction. Thank you, everyone.